Hi everyone, welcome to On the Other Hand. I'm Ariane Zurcher, and I have been wanting to do a video about burnout and the time that I took away from pretty much social media and this channel, which turned out to be for 2 years. It's kind of, I still can't quite believe that's right, but it is. And and the things that happened in those 2 years. So for those of you who've been following me for a long time, I started this channel. I started this channel during COVID. In fact, I posted the first video. I'll put the link up above, but I posted my first video on how to needle turn applique left-handed, because I could not find a video on it, and I had to figure it out myself, and it was really hard to do that. So I put out that first video in February of 2020, and we went into lockdown in March. And it began as this channel began as a series of tutorials on how to do different stitches left-handed. And then after I sort of exhausted every stitch that I knew or used, I guess, I'm sure there are many stitches that I didn't do a tutorial for, but I don't ever use them. So I started to talk more about the creative process, and having been a designer my entire working adult life, that seemed like a good thing to sort of segue into. And that then led to, I did some designs, and I started doing workshops. And, you know, as an artist, I'm always interested in how artists evolve. It's always really intriguing to me to see how early work and then subsequent work and just kind of the evolution and where they start going. For me, my evolution was to start going into mixed media, and that really felt like home in a way that that I hadn't felt really before. And then a series of things happened, and I'll just talk about a few of them, not all of them, because they involve other people that are alive, and it's not for me to discuss their lives. Even though they impact me, it's not for me to talk about. A couple of things happened, big things, and they happened sort of in a cluster that actually, it felt like they were all very close together, but in fact 2 were close, but the first one, which was my mother's death, happened a full year and a few months before. So my mother died. My mother was the one who taught me and really introduced me the joy of craft. She taught me how to knit. She taught me how to sew. She taught me how to embroider. She and I would do projects together. She really, she taught me to cook. So, and when I was actively writing on my blog, Where Art and Life Meet, which has been laying dormant and I have not gotten back to it, she was my most adoring commenter and participant in that blog. And so whenever I blogged, she almost always commented. And so when she died, and our relationship was complicated. We were very close, but there were also things that were difficult. So it wasn't a simple, easy, well, I don't know. I don't want to say that, but it wasn't a simple relationship. It was complicated. And I loved her very, very much. So when she died, it was a very complicated feeling. I was traveling. I was in Africa at the time with my husband. I had seen her 2 weeks before she died. I left on the 15th and she died on the 27th of August. It doesn't matter if you expect, we're all going to die. We know this. Our parents are probably going to die before us. We know that. When someone is in her 90s, as she was 92, it's not a shock. And yet it is. It's funny how it is. And anyone who's gone through this, I think, will agree with me. It's both not a surprise and a complete surprise. And there is this sort of shock of this person who you've had this incredibly complicated and close relationship with, and now they're no longer. And I went through a period of wondering, who am I? Where do I begin? Where does she end and I begin? So there was a lot of soul searching that had to happen. And then fast forward to the next year, and a couple months after the year of the anniversary of her death, my cousin died. And he was as close to a father figure as I had. He gave me away at our wedding, and I loved him very much. And so again, there was sort of this, it wasn't a surprise, but it was a complete shock. And then less than a month later, our kitty died, Merlin. And somehow Merlin's dying I was just floored. He's just a cat, all these things, right, that run through your head. But it was just devastating. He died on Christmas Day. And it was just horrific. It was just horrific. And I had already stopped doing YouTube videos. I'd stopped, I was doing so many videos, and I had a Patreon page, and I was trying to keep up with social media, and I was doing workshops, and I was trying to keep up with the pace of the videos, and I just was feeling more and more pressure, and more just just like the weight of the world. I was on my shoulders. I knew I had to step back. What I didn't realize was that with all these other things happening, I was also going to embark on another journey that I completely didn't expect. And that was a journey of finding myself, of really finding, which sounds really kind of maybe crazy to people. I mean, I'm in my 60s. Don't you do that when you're in your 30s? For me, no, I didn't. It took until I was in my 60s, and it took until all these other events had taken place for me to really go and dig deep and find out, who am I? And it started with a whole series of questions. I had to do a lot of writing. I had to do a lot of really digging deep. People would say things like, oh, you need to take time for yourself. You need to really take care of yourself. And there was a part of me that really didn't know how to do any of that. I mean, what does that really mean? I always thought that means taking a bubble bath, and I don't really care for bubble baths. So I thought, I don't know. I mean, it's so simple, right? This idea to take care of oneself is so simple. But I actually found it very, very confusing and hard. And I had to, and what I realized was that part of the difficulty was that I hadn't figured out yet. Again, I'm in my 60s. You'd think I would have figured this stuff out, but I hadn't. So there it is, and I'm not going to beat myself up for that. I had to figure out what I wanted, what I need, what I like, what art do I love, what mediums am I interested in, what colors move me, not what I was trained to believe, not what I was brought up to believe, not what I was taught, but to really see that the ways in which I was brought up and trained, the thinking, the different coping mechanisms, I had to look at each one of those and say, does this really reflect who I am? Is this thinking, is this belief system mine, or is it something that I've been brought up to believe is mine? Because they're two very different things, at least for me. And so I had to separate myself from the person that I was kind of trained to be and the person that I want to be, and see that the person I was trained to be wasn't necessarily the authentic me. And I just hope that I'm making some sort of sense here to somebody out there, that you can maybe relate. I had to go through a process of really identifying, who am I? And it started with questions. It started with, what am I good at? What do I love? What are my skills? What really invigorates me? What's exciting to me? What are my passions? What are my hobbies? What am I drawn to? What kind of people am I drawn to? Who do I want to be? If I could be the most ideal version of me that I could be, what would that look like? Who would that look like? What are the traits of that person? What are my values? What are my core values? What do I really care about? And then I had to ask myself, what are the habits that I have that keep me from being that best version of me? What are the things that I do that inhibit that? And this was months of writing and journaling and really thinking about all these different things. And then we went, my husband is a few years older than I am, and he's had some injuries and some other issues. And we wrote a bucket list of all the places, and we love to travel. And we wrote a bucket list of all the places we want to go. And we just sort of compared notes. And so we decided we've got to start going to these places now, while we still can, while we're active. And so we did the trip to the Amazon River and the Galapagos last spring. And I did this hike and he wasn't able to do it. And so I went on my own and I loved it. It was so much fun, which then led to the hike in Lapland that I just came back from with Giderna, which is the company that I reached out to and then signed up and hiked with 4 people I'd never met before, 3 Swedish, 1 Polish, and me. And everyone was lovely and very kind and spoke English when they were around me so that I could understand. And it was amazing. And I really wanted to challenge myself and do that hike because I love hiking. And it's not something I can share with my husband anymore to that degree, those kinds of hikes. But that trip down the Amazon River and then to the Galapagos and hiking up to Choqquequirao, which was amazing, these ruins, some of the oldest Inca ruins in Peru. I could feel my creativity flooding back. And I realized when I came home, I started dabbling at stuff. I still had stuff on the wall. I still had projects just sitting there that I would just walk by as though I had blinders on. I cleaned my studio up. I had room to move. And I started working. And the energy and the ideas started to flow. And I was excited again. And I felt energized again. And I thought to myself, could I have pushed myself through this? Could I have somehow just like white-knuckled it 2 years before and just forced myself? And I don't know the answer to that, but I'm really glad I didn't do that. I'm really glad that I let it be okay, that I was really needing a break, and that it was okay to need a break, and that I needed to give myself all the time I needed. And in that period, there were a lot of times when I thought, should I shut everything down? Should I just shut my channel down, my YouTube channel? Should I shut down my, just withdraw from all social media? Should I just shut it down? And instead I just said, don't shut it down until you're sure. You just don't have to be active on it. So I wasn't. I needed that time, and I needed to allow myself to have that time, and I needed it to be okay, and I needed not to beat myself up for it. I needed to really, 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 truly, authentically be okay with that and really embrace myself and say, it's okay. You get to do this. You can take time off. And I'm fortunate that I can. I can take the time off. But there were moments when I didn't know if I was ever going to get that energy back, that creative fire that I so love and that I've had almost my entire life, this kind of passion, whatever it was, whether it was fashion design, jewelry design, hand stitching, getting into mixed media, painting, collage, whatever it was like the energy was just incredible. And I didn't have that. And so we get back from that trip and I started to feel it. And it just came back like a tsunami. I mean, it was so wonderful. And I didn't even know how much I had missed it. But I attribute that to a number of things, one of which is really going through a period of deep internal reflection of who am I? And that work, all those pages of writing and journaling and asking those questions and really, and then asking those questions and answering them, and there'd be more questions, and then answering those questions and digging and it wasn't always so easy. Sometimes it was fun, sometimes it wasn't so much fun. But going through all of that has really informed my work now. And I can feel it. I feel more confident. I feel more at ease. I feel a kind of knowing about where I'm headed. And even when I don't know how to do something like the vessel that I made, and all of you chimed in, and it was so great because you had all these great ideas. And I really, there was a moment when it was like, what am I, crazy? Why did I even embark on this? This is insane. But then it came together, and I had to give up some ideas that I had about the shape, but I was able to pull it together, and it came together, and I love it. And now I'm doing a second one because I really love that 3-dimensional form and the shape. And I've still got this black and white piece which I'm working on, and this one's a little trickier because I started it. There's a darkness to it that I think is from all the death, and it was kind of a transitional piece for me. But there's something here that I'm really, and I haven't found it yet, but I'm still working on it. So all of this is really to say that we all go through things in life, and hopefully our work evolves and reflects it. And I feel like that's what's happening with my work, that it's evolving and it's reflecting all of this, and it's exciting. And as an artist, I want to continue to evolve. I don't want to do the same things over and over. I want to keep following, I don't know, the energy muse, whatever that is. I want to follow the creative, that nebulous path of creativity. I just want to keep following it and see where it takes me. And that's exciting. So one of the workshops that I did was finding your voice. And I really enjoyed doing that workshop. But I've been thinking that I'm going to tweak that workshop. And I'm traveling again next month. I know, crazy. But so I'm not, and then I'm going to be home, and then I'm going to be home for a stretch in November. And when we're back in November, I'm going to really look at that course and tweak it. And when I have it mapped out and really mapped out well, I'll let all of you know, so that those of you who might want to can sign up for it. We'll do it via, it'll be live. We'll do it, via Zoom. And, but I feel like I have a better sense of the things that in the past have held me back my whole creative life. And I've talked about them. Fear being the big one, just massive, massive fear, indecision, feeling, that horrible pit in my stomach of, what if I make a mistake? What if I make the wrong decision? What if? And I'm not feeling those things now. I'm not feeling that fear. And I can't believe it, because I have worked with fear lurking right here my entire adult life. While creating, I have had fear. And to be free of it finally, to really be free of that fear, I can't even tell you what that's like. Well, it's like having a horrible migraine. For those of you who have migraines, it's like having a migraine that goes on for more than 3 or 4 days, just relentless, where you can't be in light or sound, you have to be in a dark room, and then waking up and being free of it. That's what it's like. That's the only thing I can think of that it even remotely resembles. This is really, I think I've done this video for me more than anything. But if it helps anyone or resonates with any of you, talk to me in the comments. I'd love to hear what your experience is. I so love this community, and I love, when you comment and tell me about yourself. I feel so honored. I feel honored. So, yeah, if this resonated with anyone, then I feel my work here is done. On to this vessel. The next video, it's going to be all about that vessel. But I've been wanting to do this for a long time. So here it is. And yeah, thanks for watching.